Auburn's still on the bubble watch. Can they find a way to get into the dance? Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen. The Midweek Report coming at you live, brought to you by the good folks at the Rage Room, Opelika in Birmingham. 2 locations to serve you. That Opelika location, I think, is going to be changing soon. We need to make sure we get you guys an update on that. But Birmingham, still 2616 7th Avenue South. If for whatever reason you are feeling, maybe you're feeling a little bit better after watching Auburn play today, but you need to take some rage out about anything else, make sure that you hit up one of those locations. They have a lot of availability of things to smash, and it definitely helps get the stress out. Your boy might need to go take a visit over to the Rage Room if they don't go handle business versus Tennessee tomorrow. You can join as a member. Great membership content. I was live today with our members doing a little watch party during the game. If you want to get a part of the Green Name Gang, do watch party stuff over here with me at the War Report and watch me crash out about Auburn basketball. You can do that. $5.99 per month will get you there. $3.99 per month to get you to supporter level. That's just as good. We've got a lot of content coming up this summer in terms of film review. A lot of changes going to be happening with Auburn basketball. We'll definitely keep an eye on things as they progress postseason with that, but a lot of football content to get at you guys. Green Name Gang is the way to be a part of that. Maybe somebody can gift you a membership and you'll be able to get a free month on them. Also, make sure that you hit us up on the website. Get your little merch, some other ways that you can support us, as well as get your book on with Auburn gear. We appreciate that very much. But let's get in here and talk a little bit more Auburn basketball. I did my instant reaction on the show. You can definitely take a look at that, as well as the press conference with Stephen Pearl, Keyshawn Murphy, and Kevin Overton. That is available on the channel. But I wanted to get in here and talk a little bit more about this game and where this team sits right now in terms of the bubble. They are still on the outside looking in, but have an opportunity to potentially get there. They got to handle business versus Tennessee tomorrow, I think, to even give themselves a legitimate shot. The other bubble teams that are of note to watch over here, just taking a look at what Joe Lunardi has in terms of his bracketology. Stanford, New Mexico, and Cincinnati were the other teams that were the first 4 out. Cincinnati lost today to UCF, which is part of the first 4 in. So I think UCF did a good job of cementing themselves. They probably need to win one more game to really be in there. And then you've got VCU, who's not playing a game until Friday in their tournament. SMU, who is playing later today, if I'm not mistaken. And then Indiana, who is currently playing right now and losing to Northwestern. So that Indiana loss will definitely help Auburn. So Auburn does need a little bit of help. They can't just play their way in. They need Indiana to lose and then Auburn win an additional game. I think will put them firmly in there. But it does help that they were able to get the win today. Today was step 1. They had to get the win today in order to even keep this a conversation for one more day. But the tough task is going to be handling business versus Tennessee and watching tonight to see whether or not it even matters, right? If Indiana figures out a way to come back versus Northwestern, none of this may matter, right? You're going to have to keep winning and win one more game than Indiana does. So you got to handle business yourselves tomorrow, but you get a big shot in the arm, a big vaccine boost to your immune system, the immunity away from being sent home, away from the dance, by getting an Indiana loss today. So looking at that game a little bit over here on the side, at least I'm checking the score to make sure we can stay up on what's going on there. Oh, SMU, excuse me, already lost. I said they played later today. They lost to Louisville. So SMU has gotten their L out of the way versus Louisville. So you got the Cincinnati L, you've got the SMU L, and you're looking for an Indiana L. that would put Auburn back in the driver's seat if they can figure out a way to win versus Tennessee. UCF, again, already got their win. VCU plays later this week on Friday. So those are the teams to watch in the vicinity of Auburn around last four in, first four out. So that's what Auburn is looking at right now to try to figure out whether or not they get an opportunity. Currently, Indiana trailing with 11 minutes, still a lot of time left in this game, but only down by 7 here as I'm seeing it. So Auburn still got, again, some work to do here. But let's talk about a little bit more about today's game and really what I saw from the Auburn basketball team that I loved, which was for the first time in any of these games where it felt like we had been saying, you got to get this game, you got to get this game. It felt like Auburn played with a little bit of intensity and a little bit of desperation, right? Like particularly on the defensive end. I think offensively versus a good Mississippi State team, they were not going to be clean, but they did a good job of getting good activity, good action, good clean looks. Wasn't falling for them so much in the first half. And second half, they came alive, being able to knock down some of those looks. But what I saw was a lot better attention to detail on defense in terms of how they were doing defensive rotations. There were lapses. They're not going to be perfect. This team isn't going to overnight become some sort of lockdown defensive team holding teams to 50 points per game. But what you are going to see from this team is periods in the game where they're making teams take tough shots and making them into tough shot makers. Now, there are teams that can make tough shots, right? Nate Ament and Gillespie for Tennessee, tough shot makers. You're going to have to make them take tough shots, and they are going to make some of those tough shots. Josh Hubbard, a tough shot maker, right? So you made him take tough ones, and he made some tough ones. But you live with quality defense and tough shots from a team, as opposed to wide open looks or letting them get comfortable and then they start making everything that they're throwing up, right? So you have to figure out a way how to play good, solid defense without fouling. That's going to be a huge portion of this game versus Tennessee, is how do they defend without fouling and not giving up the wide open looks, particularly around the rim. This Tennessee team is going to play a lot of physical basketball, and they are going to challenge Auburn at the rim on both sides of the floor. So they have to, Auburn, find a way to be better around the rim, particularly in just the way in which they're negotiating screens and not allowing guys to get wide open looks as they come clean across the screen. Let me give props once again. I gave in the post game. I gave it during my watch party. Keyshawn Hall stepped up tonight or this afternoon in terms of the way in which he has been playing defense. He hadn't been playing very good defense down the stretch for Auburn. It just didn't seem like the effort was there. His attention, he was focused on defense for the vast majority of this game. Didn't have an offensive explosion. Don't know that and they didn't need it, right? They won the game easily. He needs to be able to get better in that next game. And I do believe that Tennessee is going to be one of those teams that's going to try to force the ball out of his hands early. But he needs to be as unselfish in this game as in the next game as he was in this game, because he wasn't forcing a lot of shots. I felt like he forced that first 3 up that he took in the game. But after that, everything was in the flow of the offense, whether it was a make or a miss. It was something that felt like, okay, this was a natural shot for you. This is a shot that you should get in the flow of the offense. It wasn't a lot of early in the possession shots. It wasn't a lot of nobody else touched the ball on this possession. It was way more of the flow of the offense comes, let me find my way in there. If he can find that kind of groove, I think the ball will find him more often than not, because he's a big body, active kind of guy. The thing I'd love to see him be more active on is that offensive glass and being able to find ways to get points in that way. If he can find his groove again with being a double-digit rebounder, I think he's going to find his way back into being a 20, 30-point guy. Because a lot of what he's been getting have been tough contested looks. When you're on the glass, you get an opportunity to go out there and maybe even get to the free throw line a little bit more. So I want to see Hall get back into that place where he becomes a ferocious rebounder and attacking the paint when shots are up. He's doing a lot of standing and watching a little bit on offense when the ball isn't in his hands. If he can get back into that mindset and get Auburn on the offensive glass, I think you'll see a very a different kind of Keyshawn Hall that they have to be responsible for in a lot of different ways on the offensive end, and not just say, okay, let's deny the ball from him or force the ball out of his hands, which Mississippi State did a really great job of forcing Auburn to go elsewhere with their offense by denying the ball. They were very particular about the ways in which they were defending some of the action that Auburn likes to do to get him the ball. But Auburn was patient offensively and not forcing the ball to him. Let's just look elsewhere and find other guys who can go get shots. And when you got guys like Kevin Overton knocking down shots, the proficiency in which he was knocking down shots tonight, you're going to put yourself in a really great position every single game to be able to do the things you need to. But it really starts for this team in the way they defend, right? And if you look at kind of the statistics from this game, the Auburn Tigers forced 11 turnovers from Mississippi State in this game. Now, Mississippi State was abysmal from the free throw line, 5 of 15. Tennessee, not a great free throw shooting team, but they're going to shoot free throws better than that. They have a couple of guys who can go out there and knock down free throws. So, free throw shooting rate, they're kind of middle of the pack, but the percentage, right? They're shooting 69.4% on the season, right? So they're not a great free throw shooting team, but you don't want to send them a lot because that ups the percentage chance that they're going to get more points in that way. You really want to their offensive efficiency is great this season because they run good stuff. They are a solid screening team. So they're going to find opportunities for guys to get those duck ins and be able to get mid-range and paint touches that allow them to score the ball effectively and not have to rely on the three-point shot, which they shoot okay, 33.8% on the season. Not amazing, but okay. But Auburn has to duplicate what they did versus Mississippi State in terms of just not allowing a lot of clean looks. In the first game versus Tennessee, if I take a look at the statistics from that game, where did I put that? Tennessee from 3 was 4 of 13. So they didn't do an amazing job. Auburn needs to be able to duplicate that. But the problem is they gave up 20 of 41 and 2 points attempts right there, and around the rim 14 of 22, right? Like that's just way too many they give up way too many rim action shots against them. That defense just wasn't cohesive enough. And despite all of that, Auburn lost that game by 8 points. And it was a winnable game for Auburn down the stretch. They just couldn't find a way to close out. Auburn themselves shot 7 threes, but they took 31 of them, right? Like you can't go 7 of 31 from 3 in a game. I've talked about this before. If you're going to take over 25 threes, I think you need to make 10 or more. If you're Auburn, the way in which you have to be able to score because you're not a big team, and Tennessee is going to challenge you at the rim, and they're going to give you difficult paint touches, and they're going to rebound effectively. In fact, in this game, from a rebounding standpoint, Auburn just didn't do a great job. My PC is not plugged in. Hold on a second. Never had that happen in the middle of a show. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm just trying to get used to this new setup I got in here, and it is going crazy. But anyway, Auburn did a much better job, or has to do a better job in rebounding versus Tennessee in this next game, because when they were out there trying to get the rebounds collected, let's see, they gave up 17 offensive boards versus Tennessee in that last game, and that is just not the route that you need to be able to take to be able to play against a quality Tennessee team like that. So hopefully Auburn is going to be able to compete better. I think the big thing for Auburn is going to be staying out of foul trouble, again, defending without fouling versus Tennessee, particularly the Auburn bigs, because we all know that Auburn does not have a deep bench, right? And so guys have to be able to, particularly in the front front court, be able to stay out of foul trouble. Murphy has had the intensity. He got the early technical foul in this game, and it didn't bode well for what Auburn did in the first half. But I do believe that because it's not the same kind of situation playing against his former team, that he's going to have a cooler head in this one. But he's got a lot of work that he has to do in terms of being the kind of guy Auburn needs on the interior there, on interior defense. So hopefully Murphy can stay out of foul trouble. After the tech, he only got one more foul. That was his second foul. He only got one more foul the entirety of that game. So he did a great job with defending the remainder of the minutes that he was out there without fouling, other than the one time. So they're going to need another kind of performance like that, double kind of thing from Murphy in order to be the team that they need to beat Tennessee. Now, he was one rebound shy of that double in this game, but I do believe that, the kind of performance that Murphy had in this afternoon, he's going to need to duplicate that versus Tennessee. And despite the struggles that Hall and Pettiford had from the floor, I liked the games that they had versus Mississippi State. I don't think that Tahad Pettiford, he had maybe one shot, the little corner three that he took, that I thought was a rushed shot on an early possession type of shot from the corner. And then he took the three that got blocked early in the first half. That I thought wasn't really a great shot. Outside of that, I feel like he took quality shots. He just wasn't knocking them down. If you can get to Tahad Pettiford, seeing the ball go through the hoop a little bit more, then you're going to be in a really great position. But what I loved from him and what I loved from KO was 10 assists, 1 turnover, right? When your two guards that are going to be handling the ball the vast majority of the time can get you 10 assists and 1 turnover, you're really in a great place offensively to do the things that you need to do. And probably would have had more assists had Auburn been able to knock down some shots earlier in the game. So love what I saw from the guards in this game. And then I got to give a shout out again to Blake Mushalik. I always say his name incorrectly. My apologies, Blake. I just call you Blake to keep it better. But he gave some good, much needed intent. I think the biggest benefit for Blake was he scored something when he was out there, right? Like, and this is a bigger thing. I was like, well, I don't need you to score a bunch, but when you get your opportunities, take the shots. He took the 1 3-point shot that he had, didn't make it, but he had another opportunity, got to the rim, got fouled, went to the free throw line, knocked down the free throws. Give them something offensively. Give the other teams a reason to defend you. And then the effort that you're giving them on defense becomes even that more tangible to the final result, because ultimately what it's going to allow is Kevin Overton and or Tahad Pettiford more time to relax in a game. They get to go to the bench, right? And that's what Auburn has really been needing to close some of these games better, is have their guards that are going to be handling the ball or taking a lot of the late shot clock threes and that sort of thing with fresh legs a little bit later in those games. So if he can give you the kind of minutes that he gave you tonight, 8 to 10, like I don't need a whole bunch of minutes, but can you give Tahad a 4 or 5 minute break in the first half? Can you give KO a 2 or 3 minute break in the second half and allow those guys? And now that they're playing Kevin Overton a little bit more at the point guard position, they can rotate them a little bit more freely and not have to have them on the court at the same time. You could put yourself in a much better position if you're Auburn to close games late with your guards, who are going to be super important to the outcomes in these games, having fresher legs. So especially when you get into tournament time, right? Because you're playing these back-to-back nights. So they got to get their rest. They got to get up and they got to get ready to play a Tennessee team that's been sitting around waiting. And they're essentially at home in Nashville, right down the road from where they play. So it's going to be a difficult environment for Auburn to be in versus this Tennessee team. But they found themselves a little bit of rhythm defensively. Hopefully they can continue to play with some intensity coming into this next game tomorrow. But want to hear from you guys. What were your thoughts on how the game went today? And how are you feeling about Auburn's prospects for getting into this next round? This game versus with Indiana is starting to get a little ugly. Northwestern 67-52 now. 69, excuse me, to 52 with just under 7 minutes left to play. So it's a 17-point lead right now. Northwestern dominating the second half of this game, 33-15 for Indiana. So yeah, it's starting to turn into an ugly affair over here with Northwestern versus Indiana. So that boosts Auburn's ability. So now Auburn has to be able to, they're again in the position where they were versus Mississippi State and Ole Miss at the end of the season, where you need this win, right? Like you needed Mississippi State, but it's a little bit less pressure because you needed two, right? Now you're on the place where you just need one more. And at the end of the season, I think if they had gotten one of those two, Ole Miss or Mississippi State, we'd be having a very different conversation. I think tonight's win over Mississippi State would have just done it. They would have been fine and they'd be in, right? You win your first round game, you're done. You didn't need the help. Now you're getting the help that you need, unless Northwestern collapses down the stretch here. You're getting the help that you need. Go out there and get a dub versus Tennessee. Not an easy task to do, but if you're going to be an NCAA tournament team, you're going to have to play teams that are tournament ready. And that Mississippi State wasn't making a tournament, right? So you didn't beat a tournament team today. You got to beat like every game you play from now until your season is done is a team that is worthy of making the tournament. So are you capable of getting that kind of win, right? One of the things I like that I heard from Murph in the post game today, and it's something that I've had frequent conversations with Auburn fans about, is this idea that Stephen Pearl is coaching poorly. And Murph kind of shot that down today, and he was like, it wasn't anything the coaches were doing. It was on us as players. We have to go out there and play better. And that's what they did in the second half. Is like, the coaches are equipping us with the ability to go out there and do the things. They're telling us where we need to be. We have to lock in and do the things that they're asking us to do. And they found a way to not allow that early run at the beginning of the second half to defeat them, because that's also something that they had not been doing. They, teams would punch them in the mouth early in the second half, and they just wouldn't get back up off the mat during this last portion of the season, because that's not the characteristics of this team earlier in the year. Earlier in the year, there was no lead that was safe. This Auburn team was going to come roaring back. They were going to find a way to make it interesting down the stretch, and they just hadn't found their second win in second halves of games during this stretch towards the end of the year, other than Kentucky. They have to find that again, and they found it a little bit in the second half here, because once Mississippi stretched that Mississippi State, stretched that lead out to what I think it was like 8 to begin the half. They came down, they had a really easy bucket out of their first possession. Then they hit the big three. They were already up by 3. So they put 5 on top of that. So it was 8-point game. I know that there were probably a lot of people who were like, all right, this is over with. Just, the season's done. Let's just get on out of here with this team. And they found a way to just say, nah, we're not done yet. So really great job by them of punching back, hitting back when they were hit. So hopefully Auburn can find whatever that was that they had there towards the end of the second half versus Mississippi State and reproduce that in effort. It's a better team, right? You're going to be doing it versus a better team, a more well-rounded offensive team that's not really just kind of Josh Hubbard and a bunch of other guys. You're going to have multiple guys that will be able to play and score buckets for this team. Can they find a way? Can they find a way to just kind of claw themselves to a victory in another very physical matchup that they're going to have versus Tennessee? So got a lot of work to do. They need to go out there and they need to show why they're worthy of being in the tournament. And I think beating Tennessee that'll do it. That show, again, late season, you beat a team that is going to be in the field, you deserve to be in that field as well, right? And I don't know that anybody else who is on the bubble, again, looking at these bubble teams, according to Joe Lunardi, UCF, VCU, SMU, Indiana currently losing. SMU already lost, so they won't have that opportunity. UCF will have a chance to play a tournament level team and get a win. I do think that UCF winning their first game probably cements them, so they're probably not coming off of the bubble anymore. But they're the only one. I don't know that VCU is going to play a team that is already in the field, so they'll have an opportunity to show why they belong in the field. Auburn has the unique opportunity to play a tournament team and get a dub and say, see, this is why we belong in the dance. So we'll see what happens with them versus Tennessee, but they got a lot of work that they got to do. I want to get over and look at what you guys are saying, because you are definitely putting in some work in the comments. Appreciate y'all so much. If you haven't already, please go ahead and share the content with somebody out there. Make sure they tap in. I know a lot of people still watching other basketball games tonight. Maybe they want to jump in on a conversation. Make sure y'all share the content with somebody. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that as well. And get a quick word from our sponsors. I'm going to get back and I'm going to get into the live chat so we can hear from what you all have to say right here on the Midweek Report.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
The Rage Room. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Set up a session today at one of the 2 great locations in Opelika or Birmingham by visiting opelikaRageRoom.com or BirminghamRageRoom.com.
If you haven't become a member, please go ahead and do that. Great membership content coming your way for the remainder of this off season. We've got interviews that we are lining up. We've got some special content. Of course, you know, we'll be doing film review stuff. So you guys got to tap in with that stuff, but you got to have a green name game to be the first to see some of these interviews. Some of these interviews we might not release in front of the paywall, just keeping it a whole buck with y'all. We might do that. So y'all make sure that you guys tap in, green name gang. If somebody wants to gift memberships, then they can absolutely do that. You will get a free month of membership on them. So 30 days to be able to check out the content. Like my guy Ken Lay, again, giving away some more poor memberships. Thank you so much for continuing to support in that way. And we will definitely do what we can to make sure that you are getting the best paywall content that exists out here on these YouTube streets. So thank y'all so much for continuing to support in that way. Make sure that you tap in with the rest of the guys in the network. We've got as the Auburn Express out there on podcast land, the Uptempo podcast, the College Loop. Just a Sec hasn't been doing as much stuff. We're going to try to get back into some Just a Sec content during this summer. TWR Gaming as well. Once the basketball season is done, we'll crank that back up a little bit more. So make sure you guys tap in with all of those things so you can stay on top of everything that is going on in terms of the Auburn universe with different voices from different people with different perspectives. I love the network because we don't always agree on everything, but we definitely want to be true to what we do feel and think about all the things going on with Auburn athletics. And in case you have a few little dollars and you don't want to give them directly to us, but you want to figure out how to make sure that you have a great financial future, AIM and Associates, Abels, Ione Moore and Associates is the place that you can go. You don't have to have a lot of money. A lot of people think that in, talking about investments and having an investment advisor means you got to have a lot of money. Nope, you don't even need any money to get that initial consultation. You can just tap in with our folks over there and they will get you set up and talk to you about ways that you can get your financial future secured. Make sure you hit them up at www.aimainc.com. That's AIMA.com. Or you can give them a call at 912-777-4128. The War Report has been compensated by Abels, Ione Moore and Associates. This endorsement does not imply any sort of knowledge of finances, and any investment that you have incurs some sort of risk. So make sure that you're ready to do all the things you need to do to get yourself set up for a great financial future. Abels, Ione Moore and Associates. Let's get back over here into this conversation, talking with these wonderful people of the War Report family. We will start this off again, shouting out Ken Lay for giving those 5 War Report memberships. My guy, 9-time champion with a member for almost 2 years now, says, can we have a moment of silence for UAB baseball? Auburn thumped them 17-2 last night. Auburn is top 5 nationally, starts SEC play this weekend at Missouri. UAB is going to be all right, but Auburn definitely, put the hammer down on them in this game. Auburn bats finally came alive a little bit during this pre-conference play. So good to see Auburn baseball starting to swing the bat a little bit better. pitching, I think it's one of those things where you're pitching. Last couple of seasons for Auburn baseball, it's been if you didn't score 10 or more points, you probably weren't going to win the game because your pitching wasn't going to get you there. Auburn's got an opportunity to win some close games now because I do think that they have some better guys in the rotation, particularly there in the bullpen. But they do need those bats to come alive a little bit more. So it's not a, you're living and dying with every out sort of situation. So we'll see what happens as SEC plays begins this weekend, as mentioned by our guy, 9-time champ. Starting it off with a series versus Missouri. Good luck to the guys out there on the diamond. Auburn softball also playing pretty well. They are currently ranked in the top 25 in the country. They got their first series win versus Kentucky. So a great job of kind of getting that program into contention now. So definitely looking forward to seeing things happen out there on the diamond for both men and women with baseball and softball. Let's get over into some more of your comments. Victoria Valencia, I don't know why I did that to you, Valencia, I'm sorry, says they played better today, looked like the old Auburn. They definitely showed flashes of the team that went on that 6-game run where they were locking up defensively. I saw some really great active hands and forcing tough shots and being able to force steals and playing just with more intensity on the ball. First half, it didn't really look like that, but like about halfway through the first half, they turned it on, and then they absolutely locked it down in the second half of that game. Mississippi State scored just 28 points in the second half. They only scored 33 in the first half, but they scored just 28 in the second half. But Auburn scored 49, right? You go into the half and you're down by 3. You did a really good job of closing out the half, but then you outscored the other team 49-28 in the second half. Auburn offensively, listen, as quietly as it's kept, even during these games where they're giving up a bunch of points, they've been scoring a bunch of points. So, as meager as that Auburn offense seems to be, they've been scoring points on people. They just haven't been getting stops, and that's been the big difference. And that's the thing that Stephen Pearl has just been kind of stressing over and over again. Either you've got to be a supremely efficient offense, particularly from the 3-point line, to be able to score with teams in bunches, or you've got to be able to play lock. Like, you being able to score 70 points a game does not matter if you're going to give up 80 plus, right? So that's why SP is so tough on them on the defensive end. It's like, guys, if we can lock up this end, we've shown we can go score ball. 79 points tonight against, again, a tough Mississippi State defense. Don't overlook the fact that this Mississippi State defense has been playing tough defense the entirety of the season, and Auburn scored almost 80 on them. That's not just ho-hum. You don't just breeze past that. They scored almost 80 on a team that hasn't won a lot of basketball games, but hasn't been giving up a lot of points either. So they need to be able to produce that again versus Tennessee, but you got to give kudos to them for being able to do that versus a tough Mississippi State team. Valencia jumps back in and says, is Ament playing? Last I knew he was hurt. He has been hurt recently, but I thought that they were just holding him out so that he could be ready for the tournament. The availability report for tomorrow's game is not going to drop until later tonight. So we'll see what the status of Nate Ament is. If Ament does not play, that puts Auburn in a much better position, because what I think is the toughest team for Auburn to be able to beat is a tough 2 team. Like, teams that can absolutely score it from 3 are always going to be a problem for any team. But teams that can make tough 2s are teams that Auburn is particularly going to struggle with, right? If you just have some kind of crazy explosion from 3 and you're not typically a 3-point shooting team, then you can beat any team at any given night. But if you are consistently a tough 2-making team, which Tennessee is, particularly a guy like Nate Ament, that makes it very, very difficult for Auburn to beat you, because what they want to do is force you into tough 2s. They already don't have great rim protection. So what they want to try to do is force you into those tough mid-range shots. And if you do those consistently, go back and look at that Arizona game. Go back and look at really that Purdue game. Where they got beat in those games was not just because they don't have enough bigs and they got beat up on the boards. They got beat up on the boards versus Purdue for sure. It was Purdue's ability to make tough contested shots, Arizona's ability to make 2-point baskets right there from 5 to 11 foot range, right? They were just consistently knocking down middies. And that is really kind of what slowly made that gap ridiculous and difficult for Auburn to overcome in that game, though they started the game really well. Tough 2 making is going to get you a lot of good wins in college basketball, because teams typically don't defend the 2 very well. Auburn defends it okay. They were just making some tough ones. So War Eagle Steve jumps in. I thought Murphy did a great job overcoming those 2 early fouls. Absolutely did not let that take him out of the game. In fact, he came back into the game even more mad. I thought the first foul on him was BS, and I thought the tech foul, the tech whistle on him was soft. So he came back in the game even more frustrated, ready to go out there, spit fire, and do what he needed to do, continue to play well. This Northwestern versus Indiana game is almost over. Indiana most assuredly is losing this game 74-59 with 38 seconds left, according to this little sports ticker that I'm looking at over here. So Auburn got the loss that they needed. Now they need to go get one more win. Freeman's rebounding was huge, says a 9-time champion. If he keeps doing that and giving us extra possessions, we have a chance versus Tennessee/Vandy. Absolutely. This is what this Auburn team needs, more possessions. If you're not going to be a team that shoots a great percentage, then you need to be a team that gets more possessions. You need to be able to steal possessions on both ends of the floor. That means forcing live ball turnovers or turnovers in general of live ball, particularly because you're able to run out and get fast breaks and not have to go against a set Tennessee defense. But then being able to get additional possessions by getting to the offensive glass. Stephen Pearl talked about this in the post game, and he said this to Freeman. Freeman had 10 big boards in this game. I think he had 4 offensive boards, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go look at this particularly to make sure I'm not lying on my boy. Freeman was able to pull down 3 offensive boards in this game, 3 additional possessions that he was able to cement for Auburn, and he was able to get 2 steals, one of those being a fast break that he went out and got it done. So he was able to get 3 additional offensive possessions and steal a defensive possession and get a bucket. So that's the kind of impact an athletic guy like he can have on the game, because he's big, right? As in terms of like his physical stature, he has the athleticism to jump really high. So going and getting those boards is something he needs to be able to do. And again, that's what Stephen Pearl said in the post-game presser, that he told him. He's like, I'm going to need you to do that again. 10 boards versus Mississippi State. Great. It's one of the best rebounding teams in the country. Can you go reproduce that tomorrow night? If you can, we'll have a chance to go win that game. I need to see that from him as well. Valencia jumps back in. If they pump up that defense a tad more and make shots, they can beat Tennessee. Absolutely. Ron Slay said the same thing. He wanted to see that Auburn team that don't lay down. Absolutely want to see that. Now, he don't want to see that tomorrow because, he's a Tennessee grad. You don't want to sit there and have to talk about how Tennessee got punked by Auburn. But, yeah, everybody else that is in this chat and probably some other people on that set wouldn't mind it so much. So, yeah, let's make sure we go out there and do that. Do that, Auburn. You know what I mean? Super chat here from 9-time champion. Tennessee is at a 5.5, total 149.5. So early Tennessee favorite. That's not surprising that Tennessee is favored in this game. 6-point favorite in essentially a home game, coming off of an Auburn team that's already played and probably a little bit tired. That is interesting. With a Tennessee team that doesn't shoot the 3 ball particularly well and could be without one of their leading scorers. Okay. Interesting line there. War Eagle Steve jumps back in and says, Auburn greater than 40% from 3 and Hall over 25 points. We have puncher's chance tomorrow. If you shoot over 40% from 3, I'll say this, and you don't turn the basketball over more than 7 times, right? I think in that 40%, I think you need to make 8 or more, right? So whatever that percentage works out to, 8 or more made threes while shooting 40% means that you're being fairly efficient from the 3-point line. I don't know about the Hall over 25 points. I don't think that that's necessary. Now, let me say this. If Hall scores over 25 points and at least half of those are coming from the free throw line, while he's shooting 80% or better from the free throw line, if he can score 10 to 15 points. Let's see. I need him to do, 14 to 18 points from the free throw line. That indicates he's getting guys in foul trouble, and he's he doesn't need to take 30 free throws to make, what I'm saying? Like, he needs to shoot a healthy percentage to get to those 14 to 18 points there, and to get to 25 plus. I like Auburn's chances there because that likely means you're getting bigs in foul trouble and you're limiting the rotations that Tennessee can have on the interior. So 8 or more made threes at 40%. I'll say double-digit free throw makes for Hall and 7 or less turnovers. I think those are like 3 key statistics that I would look at. Can't get obliterated on the board. You're probably going to lose the rebounding battle. You can't just get absolutely cremated there. But I think that those three statistics right there will give you a puncher's chance for sure. Mike B feels like a close loss to Tennessee will put the team in. Listen, I don't know if that's the case, but I make it interesting is all I'm saying for you, Auburn. Make it interesting. Make it interesting. Daniel, of course, coming in with the rain cloud. Thank you so much, Daniel. Shagbag says Tennessee is just Jacoby and Nate. They are, but they get a lot of points on second chance stuff and being able to get the paint touches. So that's why Auburn's got to be tough there. Like their one-on-one matchups, they have to be able to win those consistently. And again, if Nate Ament is not playing or not 100%, then you really just have to figure out how to shut Jacoby down in terms of scoring. However, they do have the ability to set solid screens, get easy twos, and all that sort of thing on the interior. So that's going to be a big point of contention is like, let's not just figure out how to get those two guys out of the game. We got to play really great team defense. So again, that Indiana loss absolutely helps Auburn. UCF, I think winning closely will put them in a position where they probably need to win one more in this tournament there for them in the Big 12. But again, they like Auburn will have an opportunity to play against a tournament level team in this conference tournament that will give them a big boost towards their ability to go and get in that last 4 spot. But yeah, Auburn needs to go handle business tomorrow to be able to do that. So let's talk a little bit. I don't want to project too far out because the season is not done. But what I want to hear from you guys, and I've been asked this question a few times. I talked about it a little bit during either, I can't remember whether it was during the watch party or the post-game stream. But we know this Auburn roster needs to be reconstructed, right? And this is the question I want to ask of the chat. When you look at the Auburn roster, which I will take a look at right now, just call out names. Keyshawn Hall does not have any additional availability. He can't return. I don't know that a lot of Auburn fans are clamoring for his return, even if he could. And I'll go by minutes per game percentage. Let's do that. Okay. We'll start at the bottom. Abdul Bashir. Do you guys want to see Bashir get an opportunity to come back? He didn't play very many minutes this season because of whatever injuries he was dealing with his back. Is Bashir out of here? Do you want to see what he can potentially do for this Auburn team? He didn't look great when he was playing earlier. Is Bashir a guy you want to see return? Emeka Oporum in a very similar situation where his injuries didn't allow for you to see very much of him. Is he a guy that you want to see come back and play again for Auburn? Simon Walker. Didn't get an opportunity to see him very much. He can absolutely flat out shoot the basketball. Flat out shoot the ball. Is he going to be able to play defense at this level? Is Simon Walker a guy you want to see walk back out there on the court? Blake Mishalik has another year of eligibility. Do you want to see Blake return? Caden Magwood. I ain't going to hold you. I don't see a universe where Caden Magwood returns, even if people wanted to see him back. So let's just I don't know. I mean, you can tell me whether you want to see him back, but I don't see a universe where he comes back to this team. Philip Jovich. Do you want to see him back? Keyshawn Murphy is out of eligibility. He cannot return. Elijah Freeman. Would you like to see him back? Sebastian Williams-Adams, Kevin Overton, and Tahad Pettiford round out, because again, we already said Keyshawn Hall can't come back. So out of those guys who can return, Tahad Pettiford, Kevin Overton, Sebastian Williams-Adams, Elijah Freeman, Philip Jovich. I'm going to skip over Caden again because I don't think he's going to come back. Blake Mishalik, Simon Walker, Emeka Oporum, and Abdullah Bashir. That's 9 guys that could potentially come back from a team that lost 15 games this year. How many of those guys do you want to see return, right? If your roster is going to have 12 guys, right? So you're only losing Hall, Murphy, and Magwood. I didn't count him. So if you're going to have 12 guys on that roster, is only losing 3 enough? Let's take our thoughts and feelings about who will return and just talk about who you want to see come back. Who do you want Auburn to make overtures to and say, build around this core and keep those guys coming back, because I think we got something solid there. For me, I think that I need to know more about what's going on with Bashir and Opor, right? Like, it is because they've been out for, like, Bashir hasn't even been on the injury report since SEC play started, I don't think. And he just hasn't played. He was on the injury report one other time for one other game, but he just hasn't played. So I just don't know if he's just not showing any progress in practice. Like, I don't know what the deal is there. Caden Magwood, again, we just write that off. He's not coming back. Emeka Oporum, what is the situation with him that has him not able to play for the remainder of this season? Is that even going to make sense to take up a roster spot for a guy who will never play basketball again? I don't know. Simon Walker, they haven't found a reason to play him yet. I don't know how he, over the summer, becomes more of the type of player that Stephen Pearl wants to have on his team defensively, and how he's going to play his way into having more minutes unless he really finds a way to lock in defensively. So I don't see that happening. So let's get to the more, I think, more interesting ones. Philip Jovic, Sebastian Williams-Adams, Elijah Freeman, Kevin Overton, and Terhad Pettiford. I'll start with the guy who came in with the most hype this season, and that is Terhad Pettiford. Coming into the season, Terhad Pettiford was a guy who many thought had an opportunity to maybe go test the NBA waters, and he may try to see what he can. I don't think he did himself any favors this year. He wasn't going to likely make an NBA roster last year. I don't think he did anything to improve his stock this season. The question that he has to ask himself, and this is something that I've been very clear about, what is Auburn going to do to improve Terhad Pettiford's draft stock? Are they going to go get a true point guard, a bigger point guard to pair up with him? Somebody Kevin Overton size, but a guy who's played point guard before, to pair with Terhad so that he can play off the ball a little more. Terhad needs to come back and be what Josh Hubbard was in his seasons at Mississippi State thus far. An undersized guard that's an absolute bucket. That's what Terhad Pettiford needs to be. Now, he needs to continue to devote himself on the defensive end, but he needs to be an undersized guard that's an absolute bucket. Doesn't need the responsibility of trying to run the team and assist and blah, blah, blah. Go score the basketball, young man, as many times as you can. Is Auburn going to commit themselves to putting the type of team around Terhad that will allow him to do that? That's number one. If they're not willing to do that, Terhad should go shop his services to somebody who's going to just let him go out there and be that kind of player. I think that regardless he comes back to college basketball, the question is, does he come back to Auburn? The next guy I think that is kind of a build around piece, because I do think Terhad is a guy that you can build around because he is that talented and he gives you effort and he just has some explosive athleticism. But Kevin Overton showed me a lot. Like, early in the season, it was very up and down for KO. He had some abysmal games at some points during this season, but he's shown me a lot in terms of his ability on both ends of the floor, that if he can find out how to be more consistent in his final year of collegiate basketball, that he can really be a third scorer on a team. I don't think he needs to be a primary scorer, but I do think that he needs to be a guy who can be like a second or third scorer. So he has that opportunity to be that. And why I say third scorer specifically is because I do think that Auburn needs to go find a scoring big to be able to give them something else on the interior, or at least a big wing, to be able to give them something of a more in and out presence there offensively. But I think Kevin Overton is the first of the guys on my list who I would say, KO, we need you to come back for your leadership, your intensity, all of those things, and help us put together the kind of roster that can take us back to the type of team that we've seen Auburn basketball being coached under a Pearl, right? So, like, he's the first guy. To me, the next guy on the list is going to be Elijah Freeman. I think Freeman's potential is through the roof. He's got the size, the athleticism. He has the playmaking ability. Like, he's not really a playmaker necessarily, but he is a guy who can be a tough bucket maker, a tough shot maker. He can step out and can shoot the three. He can finish around the rim. He can go get you good defense. He can get you rebound. Like, he can be a double-double machine if he finds a way to be a little bit more consistent on offense and continues to have the kind of offensive, or excuse me, the type of rebounding effort that we've seen from him of late. I think Elijah Freeman would be the number 3 guy on that list for me in terms of guys who you can potentially build around. Like, Freeman can be a guy who can be a primary scorer for you, right? Like, as much as I like the other 2 guys that I'm going to mention here on this list, I don't think that the other 2 can be your top 3 guys in terms of scoring in a rotation, right? Tahad can be, Kevin Overton can be, Elijah Freeman can be, not in one season. Potentially down the line, those other 2 guys, well, one of those 2 guys can. Those 3, I think next year can be guys that can be 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, depending upon who you go get out there in the transfer portal to fill the loss that you're going to have from Murphy and Hall in the front court. Those 3 guys could be 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of your scoring production next season if you can build around them. Or if you lose one of them, they can be a 1 and 2 or 1, 3, right, type of guys, right? So those are guys you look at and say, can we build a team around these guys' strengths and fill in for the weaknesses to make sure that they're going to be at their optimum, right? The last 2 are going to be Sway and Jovic. And let me say this, Sway is a guy I think you need to keep, right? I think you can lose one of those first 3 that I said, and you have to keep Sway, because Sway is the kind of glue guy that you need, that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective, because he's going to go out there and he's going to play really solid defense for the vast majority of the game. As his acumen for the game continues to improve, and his IQ and understanding things of, you know, how to do the scouting reports and do that sort of thing, he's going to get better on offense. He's a good passer. He's going to give you energy and effort, right? If he can find his way into being that hard-nosed kind of jack of all trades, go out there and get you 6 to 7 boards, like, he's got to improve his free throw shooting. He's got to improve his ability to step out and shoot the 3, because he's a guy who's like a tweener in size. So he needs to be more of a scoring threat, particularly as a jump shooter. And because he plays with such physicality, he's got to shoot free throws better. But he's the kind of guy that puts you in a position to be a championship type of squad, because he does the dirty work. So I think, you know, in terms of who I want to see back, or I think they need to have back, I would bump him up a little bit more on that list. But in terms of who I think are going to be the kind of scores you need, those first 3. And I'm on the fence about Jovic. I'm not going to hold you. Like, Jovic is a guy who I think contributes to winning basketball. And I said this earlier today, but I think he needs to be 3rd guy off your bench, rotation guy. He doesn't need to be a starter. So I guess I should qualify that too. You can start Tahad Pettiford, absolutely. You can start Kevin Overton, absolutely. You can start Elijah Freeman, absolutely. You don't lose anything by those 3 guys being starters on your team. And Sebastian Williams-Adams can be a starter / 6-man for you. Philip Jovic would not be in the top 6 of my rotation. And what you need to have for next season is guys who can fit in and be in the top 6 of your rotation. Philip Jovic is not that guy. Would I want Philip Jovic on that team at the 8th guy on my team? Sure, absolutely. Same thing for like a Blake Musilek. Like, if you're going to be the 8th, 9th guy in my rotation, absolutely be on that team. In order to be a championship level team, though, your first 6 guys need to be guys that can be interchangeable as starters. And you need to have bigs in that are 6'10" and above, or guys that play bigger than their size. So you've got some work to do. And if you've got to sacrifice a Philip Jovic or a Blake Musilek to the transfer portal so that you can make sure you go and get a guy that can be in the top 6 in your rotation, then that's what you should do. But I think that those 4 to 5 guys need to be a priority to build around, and you go get 2 or 3 more that can be on the top end of your rotation. What you gave Murphy and what you gave Hall in the transfer portal this year, you can probably go get a solid piece and spend that amount of money on the 2 key Seans that you brought in and then go get some other rotational guys for a little bit less bread. But like, I just don't think that you're in a position, if you're Auburn, to have Philip Jovic be the second guy off the bench for you. I think if Jovic is going to be that high in your rotation, he's absolutely got to be able to give you more on the offensive end of the floor. Has to. And he has to be better in his defense out away from the rim. He's not a great rim protector. So if you're going to play the style of defense that Stephen Pearl wants to play, where you can switch 1 through 5, then your bigs, a la Sebastian Williams Adams, and at times Murphy this season, have to be able to switch 1 through 5. Philip Jovic is not that guy. He isn't. So if he's not going to give you offense, being able to step away from the basket, he's not going to be a 7, 8, 9 rebound per game guy. He's not going to be a rim protector for you. Then you're going to have to get like happenstance offense from, which he does a good job of going some games and giving you the energy and effort, and he's doing all the things. But I just think he's a guy who, oh man, Jovic had a really great game tonight. Not like, yo, we need Jovic to step up in this one. He needs to be a surprise addition to the stat sheet. Like, oh, he played 8 minutes tonight and he gave you a really good 8 minutes. A CMO type of dude. He ain't gonna give you double-digit minutes a game, but when he's in there, you're seeing the impact, and he ain't really no huge threat, but he can find ways to impact games. I think that's more of what you need to see from Philip Jovic next year. But I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your thoughts on those things. That's just mine. You know, I just out here spitballing some stuff. Definitely going to get over here into the chat and see what you guys are thinking about that. 9-time champion jumps in and says, pick one Sway in for 2 years, junior or senior, Jalen Williams. See, Jay Will was more of an offensive threat than Sway is. Like, Jay Will is a 3-level scorer. That little mid-range, Jay Will always had the mid-range game. He could always be a guy that was going to get there in the middle of the paint, particularly when teams were trying to go zone against Auburn. They could give him that paint touch there in the middle and be able to do that. He could jump out of the gym. So he was able to give you some rim protection, even though he wasn't a true, like, big. And he developed his ability to shoot the 3-point shot over those seasons. Sway's got a lot. Like, I'm talking about freshman year, Jay Will was still an athletic freak that was able to go out there and do some things for you. I ain't seen no freakiness athletically from Sway, right? So he's got a lot of offensive development he's got to do to be able to give me Jay Will type of stuff. But I do think that he's a solid piece for a championship type of roster that can be out there. Let's see what you guys are saying back up here. I'll scroll up a little bit more. So 9-time says build around Sway, Jovic, and Overton. I just don't know that Jovic is a build around kind of guy. Like, he's a nice to have, not need to have to me. I don't see the need to have in him. If you're trying to build over again, I'll agree with 2 of those 3. War Eagle Steve says, I really want to see what Opurum can do when healthy. I would like to see that too. I just don't know that what happened with him is something that he's going to be able to come back from. Mike B, Freeman, Overton, Jovic, and Pettiford. I'll agree with 3 of those 4, but I've already spoke my piece on that. Valencia, Jovic needs some powder on his hands. He can't hold on to the ball. It's frustrating sometimes. AU Chief Noop says, gotta keep Walk. Put him in the weight room and get him enough defensive skill to not be a liability, and he'll be great. He's a stretch the floor kind of guy. And I think sometimes if you can, like, Simon Walker is the kind of player where if you have 4 other solid defenders around him, you can hide him on defense well enough. And he's a good enough shooter where, like, teams just have to be on alert. Oh, he's in the game right now. I think not necessarily weight. I think ball handling is the big thing for Simon Walker. If Simon Walker can be a better ball handler, then he can play a little bit more lead guard for you. And if he can shoot the way that he's shown that he can shoot, he's going to have to, like, I think weight, unless putting weight on is going to allow him to be a better rebounder, I think what you need to do is figure out how to make sure he can move his feet better. And I think a lot of what he has from an athleticism standpoint is really more about recognition than it is about athleticism. So maybe he just needs another year of development of kind of understanding scouting reports and what he needs to do in certain instances. But you absolutely have to surround him with good defenders so that when he comes in the game, he's not an immediate, oh my God. Like, I don't think Auburn has enough good defenders to put another bad defender out there with him, right? So Valencia doesn't think that Hod is coming back. I don't disagree with you. Susan says Freeman, KO, Jovic, Walker, Sway. She wants to see all 5 of them back, but wishes that Hod would come back as well. Not mad at that. Canlay, Bashir and Opurum can't really say. Blake is okay. Jovic, I feel like. Freeman, yes. Oh, Jovic, I like, excuse me. Freeman, yes. Sway, I could see returning. Overton, yes. Tahad, iffy for me. Gotcha. AU Chief Noop says Freeman has NBA athleticism. Need to see him back. Would love to see Hod back and be a baller. I agree with those. Justin says, big facts. I'm getting tired of the Pettiford slander. I don't really understand people. Like, I get that people thought Tahad Pettiford was going to be an all conference kind of performer. And again, be more of what you saw from Hubbard in terms of his offense. But I don't think Tahad's played bad this year. Like, go look at his assist to turnover ratio numbers. He played really well down the stretch when Auburn wasn't getting offense from anybody else. I just think that Tahad was put in a really tough position this season where he was the only returner off of a championship team with a fan base that now has championship aspirations every single season. So they looked at him and said, oh, he's going to be our guy. And it didn't work out that way because he was still learning how to play with these guys. I think another year of him and some of these guys together, you see a little bit more chemistry in another season, but you've got to figure out a way to turn him into a scorer. Justin says Freeman. I feel that. Says also, I think we need Sway. I really love his upside, especially if he can stay 3 or 4 years, he will improve. Love his effort. That's the biggest thing I love from Sway is that he's going to give effort. And he has the want to, I think, every single game. He has bad games, but I mean, listen, he's a true freshman out there playing in a really tough conference and against a really tough non-con schedule. But he gives you good effort, and I love that. 9 Times says Texas is down 3 with 3 minutes left. I think they're playing Ole Miss. Okay. AU Chief says Walk needs to get stronger for the physical grind of the league. Yeah, I mean, I just didn't see him play enough in this league to know whether physicality was his issue, whether it was recognition was his issue, whether it was athleticism. I don't know, right? I just know when he was out there, he was getting cooked. And so I'm like, are you getting cooked because you're not physically able to fight through screens? You're getting cooked because you got slow feet? You're getting cooked because you don't have good recognition of what's happening out there? Like, what's the deal, my brother? Like, because we need you to be able to go out there and absolutely flat out shoot the rock. But you can't be a liability on this other end of the floor, not when we're already struggling to get stops. So Shagbag says, I can't see why Tahad would leave if he didn't leave the team this year. It wouldn't make sense. It would make sense if he left in the transfer portal. I don't think it makes sense for him to try to make the jump to the league, but transfer portal, absolutely. 9 Times says, hope Alabama's backcourt next year isn't 0 and 2. I don't even know who those numbers are, so I can't hold you. Oh, you said all of the above. He's not good at any of those things. Listen, he's bad on defense, y'all. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, I can't put a piece of defensive tape out there for you and say, look what this guy did on this. And see, this is this is the last thing I'm gonna say. I'm gonna get off of this whole basketball situation. Let y'all go for the night. This is why I was so mad at Keyshawn Hall all season, because I watched the Keyshawn Hall on defense tonight and I'm like, yo, this is all I've been asking you to do all year. Just keep your head on a swivel and make the switches when you're supposed to, communicate stuff with guys, and have a little urgency when you're closing out. I'm not asking you to lock nobody up one-on-one. Make your rotations. Talk. Give effort when it's your guy that's out here in the corner. At least run him off the 3-point. Like, can you do that? I saw more attention to detail with Hall tonight. So it showed me that it's not that you can't play defense. You weren't locked in. Not that Mississippi State is some amazing offensive team, but he didn't play like that in the first game. He wasn't locked in. Lock in, my boy. That's all I need you to do. If you're locked in, you are not a liability, and now you become a threat on the offensive end all the more. I don't have to pull you out of the game. That's all I've been asking him to do all season. That's all anybody's been asking him. Lock in. Not lock up. I don't need you putting clamps on people. You ain't got that in you yet. Can I see the effort? Can I see the attention to detail? Can I see you figure out how to communicate? He did that tonight. That's all I need to see, bro. That's it. I ain't nobody. I get it. But man, you want to hoop in the next level, brother? You got to lock in, fam. All right. It's enough of me talking, brother. That's all I got to say to y'all tonight. Thank y'all so much for jumping in here on a Wednesday night when there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of basketball. Appreciate y'all so much. Before you all get out of here, if you are not a member, please go ahead and join and make sure you get that stuff together. You can gift a membership for us. Tap into the website. Get your little merch out there. I'm gonna start writing articles again during the off season. Definitely going to talk a little bit more about the subjects we've discussed tonight. Tap in with the rest of the network as well. Tap in with our folks over at the Rogue Shop before they get up out of here. And before you leave, make sure that you do things like subscribing to this channel, share the content with somebody. We're at the War Report on X and Instagram. TW Report is the TikTok. I'm about to get out of here, man. I'll be back at you guys for the Tennessee game tomorrow. But until then, and as always,